My name is Marvin XFiles, and today I will be doing a trailer reaction to Warhammer. I don't know much about Warhammer. I'm very ignorant to this IP. I probably heard about it, but I don't know any of the lore or the timelines or like how come these soldiers had came about. I don't know anything, man. I'm coming in unknown like a deer up in headlights, eyes just wide open, and like I gotta absorb all of this knowledge about Warhammer. So this is what had brought me here to like react to the lore, I guess. Yeah, because I heard that if you like Gears of War, you will adore Warhammer. So I'm like, all right, cool. You know me, I would give it a try. So this video is about to take place right here and right now. Because I don't know nothing about Warhammer 40k, something Warhammer. I don't know nothing about it. But we are here now. So we about to get to this reaction to Warhammer. Let's get this bad boy, shall we?
Hi friends, Warhammer is my favorite setting of all time, duh. And I also think 40k is one of the greatest hobbies of all time. However, let's be honest, it's probably the most intimidating setting to get into, right behind the setting of any place with a cute girl to talk to. But luckily, you have me, for the Warhammer, not the girls. But I'm just a silly little guy who'll help you get your foot in the door and explain all the basics that you need to know to get into the expansive lore of 40k. You're welcome. Also, if you're already familiar with the lore, you should still watch because that would just be really nice, thanks. Anyways, it all started much like our own universe with the Big Bang and birth of the universe. Mostly because it is our universe, just with magic space lizards and stuff. Speaking of, a long time ago in a galaxy that's this one, magic space lizards called the Old Ones roamed the galaxy and created new species and planted the seeds of life on planets as they traveled the cosmos. Around this time, another species called the Necrontyr was beginning to gain prominence as well, but this progress was slowed due to a little affliction they had called super cancer, caused because our crappy planet's dumbass sun is a deadly laser. But despite their woes, eventually these dudes did create spacecraft and interstellar travel. But it sucked ass compared to the Old Ones. But one day they did happen upon the Old Ones and were amazed by their incredible tech, unrivaled power, and vast wisdom. So, naturally, Make-A-Wish Kid, the race, asked the Old Ones to help with their struggles. But, unlike John Cena, the Old Ones declined their wish. Which might seem mean, but also, the Old Ones either couldn't help since the Necrontyr had some form of magic space cancer that was inherently tied to their species, or they didn't want to help because the Necrontyr were an evil-ass warmongering species of jerks, so giving them immortality may not have been the best idea from a species that values all life. Anyways, the Necrontyr obviously didn't like this, and thus began the War in Heaven. Which is a topic in and of itself, but long story short, the Necrontyr found some star gods even older than the Old Ones, old ones if you will, made them bodies to talk to, allied with them since they promised the Necrontyr immortality. Yippee! Then they made the Necrontyr into soulless robot slaves. Not yippee, but also gave them the power to actually fight the Old Ones without getting instantly crushed.
So he is higher
and the Necrons and the Old Ones had the craziest, most insane war in the galaxy ever. I know you've seen images like this and went, oh yeah, wow, that's pretty crazy insano. Well, the War in Heaven makes that look like two babies fighting over a cookie. The Old Ones made species to aid their war effort, most notably being the Psychic Eldar and the powerful Kroorks. And they seemed to be winning until some funny guys called the Enslavers started killing everyone. You see, in Warhammer, there's this little thing called the Warp, which is essentially a mirror dimension to real space, and in the time of the Old Ones, it was unpredictable and potentially treacherous, but like in the way the ocean is. It wasn't evil or malicious, it just had choppy waters and the occasional tsunami or something. But since the warp mirrors the galaxy's emotions and feelings, a literal galaxy-spanning war of divine proportions started to make the warp actually evil and malicious, to the point that it gave birth to some evil-ass monsters. So now your ocean has sea monsters, and some of those sea monsters have legs and will come into your galaxy and eat you. This upset allowed the Catan and the Necrons to gain the upper hand and exterminate the Old Ones, finally winning the War in Heaven. And all it
Oh wow,
costed was their
it's a lot to
souls,
take
free
in.
will, and all the
The
pleasures of
Necrons is supposed to
life.
be God who
Then,
created the
sometime
humans
after
and
the
fight the
war in
war.
heaven, the leader of the Necrons, Zarek the Silent King, led a rebellion and shattered the Catan into shards, which the Necrons promptly enslaved and used in their super weapons. But after defeating two god species, the Necrons were a bit tuckered out, and the old one's new species were beginning to get scary. So, the Silent King relinquished his control of the species and initiated the Great Sleep as his last order before leaving the galaxy for some possibly literal soul searching. The Great Sleep was enacted so that the Necrons could sleep past the blossoming new species peaks, recover their strength, and then exterminate them later to reclaim the galaxy once again. So, with the Necrons sleeping, just like how there are a ton of AK-47s lying around after the USSR died, there are a bunch of Eldar laying around after the old ones died. Except, these AK-47s had feelings. A lot of feelings. And also, genitals. The Eldar gained dominion of the galaxy, culled the warlike Krorks, and created the greatest empire the galaxy has ever seen. Then, fast forward approximately 60 million years, and a little species of primate evolved on a little blue planet called Earth. For this section,
Okay,
read this
at your
book
current
or
time.
any
Okay,
similar
cool.
one for relevant lore on them. But a few thousand years after that lore book, humanity developed space travel and began to colonize the solar system.
Okay,
Then
I'm up to
the
date
humans
now.
developed
I'm up to
even
speed.
better space travel and leaves the solar system to colonize the galaxy, bringing on a new era of incredible scientific and
Okay,
technological progress,
and we in my time now.
retroactively called the Dark Age of Technology. This was the pinnacle of humanity and was an era defined by prosperity and progress as humanity began their journey to control the stars. The most notable human inventions of this time were the AI Men of Iron, unparalleled genetic editing techniques, and warp travel. In this era, the Dark Age of Technology humans were masters of gene editing and created subspecies, notably the Navigators and Squats. With the Navigator gene, warp travel was invented as a form of faster than light travel. Warp travel is achieved by tearing a hole in reality to enter the warp. This is useful because, in the warp, there is no regular flow of time or space, so you can essentially skip across a galaxy with skilled navigators. The warp will be important again, so keep it in mind. But all good things come
warp
to
is
an
time
end,
travel.
and across the
Then,
galaxy
well,
and the
not,
Eldar
but it's a
Empire,
form of
having
traveling
long
in the
reached their
warp.
societal peak
Okay.
with no struggles, the aforementioned extreme feelings and genitals started to become an issue as they started a near species-wide age of decadence and degeneracy. Since the Eldar have such intense emotions, their actions and powerful feelings began to negatively affect the warp. So, the warp was beginning to get evil and wacko again, and part of this was a huge psychic awakening among the galaxy species, most notably humanity. At first, this was cool wizard shit, but eventually it became problematic as the Eldar continued to mess up the warp, and demonic incursions began to plague humanity, and psychic wars destroyed many great civilizations. And to make matters even worse, humanity's advanced AI Men of Iron began a revolt. Unlike our world, where AI is mostly just garbage slop content, companies cheaping out, and pathetic products for losers. Seriously, who the fuck needs an AI girlfriend? Get a life, dude. AI in 40k was actually cool robot dudes and helpful beings, but most of these Men of Iron eventually believed themselves to be superior to their creators, potentially due to the warp or perhaps just AI ego, and they led a cybernetic revolt. This apocalyptic war featured insano war machines on both sides and nearly annihilated humanity. But they were eventually able to defeat the AI at great cost. All AI was banned in humanity, and all the Men of Iron were exterminated. After this revolt and the growing warp storms, humanity was ravaged and shattered, ending their age of technology and leading to the Age of Strife. The Age of Strife was predictably defined by strife as the now mostly isolated human colonies separately developed and a number of wars began. Humanity fought demons, xenos, and other humans. Most importantly though, on Terra, humanity broke into clans of techno-barbarians led by great warlords. These techno-barbarians constantly fought in a sort of clash of clans, but one warlord would rise above all and begin to unify humanity once more. A little guy known as the Emperor would finally reveal
Hold on,
himself.
it's a lot of wars happening. First, it was the humans. First, it was the creation. It was the Necro or whatever it is. He had created these type of soldiers, human, and to fight a different world, a different war against in the old elders or something like that, and had to fight these people. It's a lot going on, but here is more I'm more focused on, and it's understandable. So it was the AI, so it was the human against AI, a robot intelligence, kind of like a Mass Effect, and the Koreans had built the Geth for cheap labor, and now they are revolting and they have to fight. Okay, cool. And then after that, in the human one, and it was like different forms of clans, I guess, and they started fighting demons and monsters. I believe it came to that point. All right, I'm kind of processing this whole thing. Okay, all right.
And his legion of genetic super soldiers known
Genetic
as the
super
Thunder
soldiers.
Warriors. With his Thunder Warriors and Custody legions, the Emperor would begin the Unification Wars. Meanwhile, the Elder Empire had finally reached a breaking point in which their excessive ways became so excessively excessive, it gave birth to Slanesh, the literal god of excess, and she devoured most of the Eldar save for the Craft Worlds, Exodites, and some other small remnants. This caused even more warp chaos since the Chaos God ranks went up by a beefy 33%. But the Emperor foresaw the birth of Slanesh, and he sought to conquer and reunite Terra under his new Imperium of Man. While his unification wars waged, he began developing his next genetic soldiers, the Space Marines. While the Marines were slightly
Space
physically
Marines.
inferior to the Thunder
Bigger,
Warriors,
stronger,
the Thunder
faster,
Warriors were
easier.
too unstable and savage to fit the Emperor's plans. So, to provide gene seed and to lead his armies, he would make 20 Primarchs, which was actually 21 due to the magic of twins. But anyways, the Primarchs were born of warp magic and genetic sorcery to be the Emperor's most powerful warriors.
Human-made, huh?
However, his lab partner Erda, and technically the mother of the Primarchs, scattered the Primarchs across the galaxy because she feared the life that the Emperor would make them have. Or, there's also a cool little theory that the Emperor himself scattered the Primarchs and then blamed Erda for some big scheme of his. Luckily for him, though, even with the Primarchs scattered, the Emperor was still able to develop the Astartes. But without them, there were some legions that developed gene seed mutations and other weird things. But anyways, about a century after making the Space Marines, he had the Custodes and Space Marine 1st Legion eliminate the Thunder Warriors. Most notably out Mount Ararat, and later the Palace Coup, marking the end of the Unification Wars as he now had dominion of Terra. With the unified Terra, he began to enact his grand plan to destroy chaos. Key parts of this plan were to create an imperial...
So the Space Marines have fought the other soldiers, so that there's a lot of war you're going on, but I'm kind of keeping up. I'm understanding it. So the Space Marine have fought the other soldiers. I forgot their name, and now they are in full and control. And they had produced sons, and they had dispersed in the babies. So in the evil witch, it wouldn't capture them or eliminate them. I get that part. All right.
Version of the old one's webway, which would eliminate the need for warp travel and to abolish all religion, as well as making it clear that he was not a god. These would theoretically weaken the Chaos Gods enough to create a new golden age free of warp taint. And from there, he would launch a great crusade to unify the rest of humanity. He first conquered the moon and allied with the Mechanicus of Mars to supply his armies with the equipment and vehicles needed. Throughout the crusade, he slowly reunited with his sons, and he recruited them to his cause. And, luckily for him, most of the Primarchs gained rule of their worlds, or even systems, making those freebies for the Emperor's conquest. One of the first Primarchs he came across was the 16th Primarch, Horus Lupercal. And Horus proved to be the best Primarch of all, and the Emperor's favorite. Horus was not only a great warrior, but he was an extremely charismatic leader and skilled tactician. He was one of the most successful Primarchs in all of their conquest. He was wholly devoted to the Emperor, and he was one of the few Primarchs to be almost universally respected among his brothers. Due to this, the Emperor would eventually crown Horus War Master, taking the Emperor's place leading the Great Crusade so that the Emperor could focus on developing his secret webway project. And this was great. Horus was the obvious pick for War Master, and he did a great job. Then, sometime after that, the Primarchs and the Emperor held the Counts of Nicaea, which resulted in the banning of the use of psychic power.
So here, and we're building up an army, and we're forming some type of union with the moon, and we're like building up in morale, friendships, partnerships, and we gotta face this queen, the necromorph or something. I forgot the queen name, the evil queen. So this is a new alliance is being built. Allied nation. I love it. I like what's going on here. All right, I'm up to date.
This will be important later, so keep it in mind. Also important is that the Primarch Lorgar wrote the Lucidio Divinitatis, which declared the Emperor a god. Which, if you're paying attention, is literally against everything that the Emperor stands for, so he banned Lorgar from worshipping him. But, you know what they say, worshippers gonna worship on a warship. And on the planet Acadia, Lorgar met a demon prince who convinced Lorgar to join Chaos and betray the Emperor. After doing so, he genocided the Acadians to cover his tracks, and the planet was later recolonized by loyalist Imperials. Then, unfortunately, one day, Horus would get mortally wounded by an evil-ass dagger, gifted to a rebel leader by the son of Lorgar, Erebus, everyone's favorite little guy. After being wounded, Horus made a pact with mysterious dark powers to survive his wound, officially beginning his fall. Magnus, being a powerful psyker, foresaw Horus's heresy and set out to tell the Emperor. The fastest way to alert his father was to, quote, do nothing wrong and astrally project himself to Terra against the Emperor's express orders not to use psyker powers under any circumstance whatsoever. Before even reaching the Emperor, though, Magnus would encounter a powerful psychic barrier, and in his desperation, he accepted the help of a mysterious entity to break through the barrier to alert the Emperor. But that was a trick from the god of tricks, Tzeentch, and breaking the barrier allowed a demonic incursion to destroy the Emperor's Webway project, essentially dooming humanity. And for 10 years, the Custodians and Solar Forces fought the demons off in the War in the Webway. Meanwhile, the Emperor sent Leman Russ to bring Magnus back to Terra for his transgressions. And along the way, Horus would tell Russ that the Emperor had ordered him to change Leman's orders to kill Magnus instead of detaining him. People say Leman was dumb for this, but he really had no reason to doubt it considering that Horus was War Master, and at this point he had no reason to believe him a traitor. Plus, he hated that Magnus was so arrogant with the warp, so he happily obliged. So, at the burning of Prospero, Magnus and his 1,000 sons were thoroughly beaten by the wolves, and Russ shattered Magnus, which concretely aligned Magnus with Chaos as Tzeentch pulled him and his legion into the warp. Soon after, Horus launched the Horus Heresy at Isstvan III, killing the Loyalists among his legion, the Death Guard, World Eaters, and Emperor's children. Fortunately, Loyalist Death Guard Nathaniel Garo was able to escape and warn Terra of the betrayal, causing a retaliation force to be sent by Dorn to intercept Horus on Isstvan V. Nearly all of the Salamanders, Raven Guard, Word Bearers, Night Lords, Alpha Legion, Iron Warriors, and Iron Hands were sent to the planet. After some fierce fighting, the Word Bearers, Night Lords, Alpha Legion, and Iron Warriors revealed that they too were traitors and ambushed the 3 Loyalist legions, killing Ferrus Manus and nearly wiping out all 3 of the...
And it's a lot of betrayal that's happening. Oh my god, betrayal, 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 betrayal. You can't trust nobody. Oh my god, this is getting out of hand. First it was the other guy. He was, I wanted to worship in religion and it was abolished and you cannot believe up in it. It was taboo. And like he said, you know what? I'm going to conquer off this planet and then I'm going to have my own. All right, okay.
Legions. This was crucial to Horus's efforts as the Loyalist forces were essentially down 3 legions, and when he was War Master, Horus also diverted the best gear and resources to his allied traders. This meant that the smaller trader force was able to even the odds and gain valuable allies like half of the Mechanicus to wage war on the Imperium. So then, the Horus Heresy happened. Lots of Space Marine battles and Primarch drama, yada yada. This all culminated in the fateful Siege of Terra. As the Terran forces clashed with the Traitor Legion and Demon Hordes, the Emperor, Dorn, and Sanguinius teleported onto Horus's flagship to kill him once and for all. Here, Sanguinius was brutally killed by Horus, and the Emperor dueled his son. Horus had the power of all 4 Chaos Gods coursing through his veins, and he mortally wounded the Emperor. But the Emperor blasted Horus with a giant psychic attack that deleted his soul and earned the Imperium a Pyrrhic victory. Dorn brought the fatally wounded Emperor to Terra and put him on the Golden Throne to keep him alive, light the Astronomicon, and keep the demons at bay. The Emperor was technically alive, but he might as well have been dead as he was essentially a big psychic battery for the throne. Once Horus was vanquished, though, the Ultramarines and Dark Angels arrived in the system, and with their huge armies, they were able to beat back the remaining traitors. Then, Guilliman took control of the Imperium, enacted crucial changes to prevent another heresy of large scale, came into conflict with some of his brothers, most notably Dorn, due to said changes, but Dorn eventually relented as he didn't want a second civil war. Meanwhile, the traitors scattered and broke into warbands due to a lack of leadership and infighting. Additionally, the traitor Primarchs retreated into the warp, and the loyalist ones also went off someplace one by one, including Guilliman getting mortally wounded by a demon Fulgrim and put into stasis. And so, with the Emperor essentially dead and most of Primarchs gone, just like how George Washington's final wish was for America to not make political parties, and they honored their legendary leader by immediately ignoring that, the Imperium honored their legendary leader by immediately ignoring his wishes and creating the Imperial cult, based on Lorgar's Licidio Divinitatis, and worshiping the Emperor as a god and martyr, setting the Imperium on its path of stagnation and decline. And then after that, the Battle of Fang, War of the Beast, Age of Apostasy, yada yada, a bunch of relatively unimportant filler to get us to our favorite setting ever, Warhammer 40k. Woo! Warhammer is a lot cooler than 30k because we got aliens, baby! Whoa! I mean, 30k also had aliens, but there were non-threat side characters after the triumph of Olenor. But anyways, by this time, the galaxy is just crazy style, with endless wars going on all over the place. Along with the threat of chaos, the Orcs regained prominence, the Eldar occasionally waged wars, the Tau Empire formed, the Tyranids were attracted to the galaxy, and the Necrons finally began to wake up again. The perfect setting for a war game, with factions constantly fighting and doomed to a slow decline. And then, one fateful day, Abaddon finally destroyed Cadia, which had since become the second most important Imperial world after Terra, since it defended the gate of the Eye of Terror from the constant chaos forces leaking out for 10,000 years. By destroying Cadia, the Eye of Terror was able to split the galaxy asunder with the Great Rift, spelling a new age of grim darkness and the Imperium's inevitable doom. Oh, except luckily the Imperiums were able to revive Rabute Guilliman from his being dead nap, and right before he died, he luckily commissioned a giant legion of Primaris Marines who are the biggest, bestest, most powerful Marines ever, and they were able to fight back chaos, and good old Brother the Lion also woke up from his little nap a little bit later to wreck ass in Imperium Nihilus. And you can rest assured that probably all the Primarchs will come back and earn $1 billion gazillion and start Horus Heresy Part 2. Because people seem to want that for some reason. But yeah, that's the basics, and all you need to know to get into the lore of the greatest setting of all time, Warhammer 40k. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and I hope this video can help people get their foot into this amazing hobby. Anyways.
Yeah, dude, that was a lot. It was a lot, but it was very informative information. War, it never changes. War, it never changes. It keeps happening in deceitfulness. And when humanity begins to make progress, make advancement, there are always a person who will try to go against or try to say no. So that's how come he said no religion, because it seemed to turn people and to go in the complete opposite direction. So it makes sense. It all makes sense. And then, like, he began trading. Hey man, it was good. It was good. It was good. It's war. War, it never changes. It's about war. It's about betrayal, loyalty, legion, all of these different factions. Like, it's like, oh man, it was a lot to take in. But I gotten some of the information of why war has came into be, and we gotta restore order. But it was a lot of betrayal. Up in this, it was a lot of betrayal. I'm like, what the heck is going on? This betrayal after betrayal after betrayal. I'm like, oh man, it's tough to consume. Like, man, shoot. I would have never thought that, but hey man, it's a lot of betrayal. But overall, man, it looked good, even though like it was hand drawn. If I would have gotten like a cinematic, like like a cinematic trailer, I'll be like, okay, cool. But I'm thankful that he was kind enough and honored to bring this knowledge about Warhammer 40k upon my channel and upon me. So I'm thankful. However, I freaking even get the information is how I receive it, and I'm just thankful. And hey, yo, this look tight. And they need to make a movie out of this for all of the newcomers. I need a movie about the origins of how it all begun. I need an origin, at least like a trilogy. I know that Henry Cavill is supposed to be playing Warhammer, and it's an Amazon exclusive. So if that we get anything like in the games or like hey, but what was told here, I'm good. But I need this information and to be good. I need it to be good, quality, all of that. But overall, man, I had a good time with this. It was good. Warhammer 40k was fire. And I might have to play some games of this. I might have to play. Cause it looks good, amazing, and like I might have to play some games and like know more about it, but I'm waiting on like animation or live action format so I can really appreciate it and like take it in. I remember I seen Warhammer on that Amazon short story type of thing. I forgot the name of it. Dang. And they had Pac-Man and they had the Mega Man. I forgot. But Warhammer was tight. That was the best episode out of them all. Was Warhammer on Amazon in a short film, and they talk about and they had to face in the demons. It looks good. I said, oh snap, I need this in live action format. It was the best one out of the Pac-Man, out of all of them. It was the best ever one up in my eyes. It was the best I've seen. But overall, man, my name is Marvin XFiles. If it doesn't got that stamp, it's real, it's authentic. If you guys ever want to bring more information on my front door porch, let me know about this Warhammer, or like do I need to like gather more information, or like if there's any other channels or something, because I like Warhammer. It reminds me of Gears of War. So like, yeah, I know I can get into this bad boy and start actually exploring it and actually diving into the lore and the small details and actually know more about this bad boy in the large details too. But overall, man, my name is Marvin XFiles. If it doesn't got that stamp, it is real, it is authentic. My name is Marvin XFiles, and this Warhammer look promising, and I'm looking forward to its future. Hopefully it can bring about something new, something different. I need to see. It seems very masculine and macho, and me, I love that. I love that. Up in America, it haven't been quite masculine. I need more action, and like this, it can provide that to me, and I truly like that. It's the masculinity of a man, and we like to fight, and and we like the politics and do all that stuff. I like it. So I'm here for this bad boy. My name is Marvin XFiles. If it doesn't got that stamp, it's real, it's authentic. Marvin XFiles. 2 fingers. Peace out.